Hello and welcome to another episode of the East London Sport Podcast. My name is Freddie Carty as ever, and today we have another special episode just for you guys. With me, I have Josh Ward-Hibbert, who not only is a Team GB basketball player, he also plays for London Lions, but funny enough, he used to play tennis at quite a high level too. Josh, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty good as well. Looking forward to today's episode, and I can't help but feel we should start with that kind of the start of your sporting career. And like, how did you pick up playing both tennis and basketball, and how were they balanced at first?
I think from way back when, I think it was more my brother, I've got an older brother, a couple of years older. Basketball was something that he was into. He was massively into. So he kind of started when he was quite young, and just as younger brothers do, you're always around your older brother, always traveling. So I just kind of got into basketball, just kind of through him. And very similarly with tennis, we found ourselves at the Nottingham Tennis Centre, and we were both just playing there. And I think we just seemed to be like naturally quite good, had a good hand-eye coordination. And soon after that, it was just found us messing about a lot together, just playing like tennis and going down to the Notts Tennis Centre in our free time. And then after that, balancing it, it wasn't necessarily like, it didn't feel like I was balancing it anyway. I love playing basketball, I love playing tennis, and it was really just, if I wasn't playing one, I was playing the other. And if I ever had free time, I was looking to fill it with tennis or basketball. So it was really just, I guess, a passion and love for both sports, and then just an opportunity to be able to do both and try and play both of them as much as I could.
So did you have idols that played both tennis and basketball, or did you always favour one sports person over another?
I would say, to be honest, like idols wise, I wouldn't really have like idols and heroes in like either sports really until probably going on like the 14, 15 times. I think I watched both sports, like obviously when I was younger before then. I enjoyed watching both sports, and I was always watching as much tennis as I could, which was definitely easier to watch. And the basketball, always watching when I could. Obviously, it's a bit more difficult, especially back then. But a lot of the times, playoff times, used to have sleepovers with my friends, and we would start watching the games. But the idols really came in when I was, as I said, probably about 13, 14, 15. I'd say it was Andy Murray and Kobe Bryant. So kind of one of each. And to be honest, it was both of them quite equally. I think Andy Murray was probably a bit more towards the latter stages, the 16, 17, 18 times. Kobe was probably a bit younger, but it was more just their kind of like mindset rather than solely just watching them playing the games. The stories you hear, and when you're watching them play some of like their toughest matches they've been in, and the way they mentally go about it was so inspiring to me, and kind of molded someone that I wanted to be as a work ethic wise. So yeah, they were definitely some of my heroes. But yeah, as I said, I wouldn't say I necessarily had them hero types or role models probably until maybe later on, the 13, 14, 15 times and plus. Yeah.
And so would you say that kind of coincided with the point in your life when you start to take both sports more seriously? Like at what point did it kind of come as an idea in your head that this is something that you could compete not only against other people at a local level, but potentially go higher with too?
Yeah, I think it probably was similar to that. I think basketball was really later than tennis, just because I think basketball didn't really experience any competition outside of England on a serious level probably until I was actually 16. So I guess I always thought I was decent, kind of handy, but obviously Great Britain not being um, the best country in the world for basketball over the last decade or so, has always didn't have that understanding of, where the level I was playing at in England and where my level was based was respective of, other competition in like Europe and worldwide, until I went to the European Championships under 16, where I got to see other players from different nationalities and different nations play, and I could really put myself up against it. And tennis was probably similar, but if anything, it was just a bit younger, probably around 14 times when I started traveling to, different tournaments and playing in under 14 tennis Europe competitions again. Some of the guys are, the best in the world for the age group. But it was definitely at that time when the 13, 14 where I started probably maybe doing a little bit more traveling. I think the sport was always something I was passionate about, and being passionate about the sport was the love of the sport, but also kind of the love of winning. So I think the hard work and stuff kind of was always there, and I think some of the where I was at 14 in tennis and basketball was from some of the hard work I put in prior. But the actual aspirations and them kind of dreams and stuff probably didn't creep until around them 14, 15 times when I was able to see different competition, and definitely seeing all that different competition and seeing people from different countries doing also amazing stuff in the sport is definitely where the mindset of kind of like the Kobe Bryant and the Andy Murray's really was more sitting in and understanding the stories that they did and kind of like what it took for them to be great is something that maybe from that point at 14 onwards is some of the stuff that I was understood maybe more, that these are the kind of things that I'm going to have to start to do myself.
And then, so if I remember correctly, you may still hold the record for fastest serve by a junior player at Wimbledon. Like you mentioned, going abroad and playing in tennis tournaments. What was that like for you at such, I would guess, a relatively young age?
Yeah, it was. It was both great and difficult as well. Like there was some amazing highlights, some amazing places staying. In some great hotels, and also playing some great tournaments as well in like some of the nicest courts, some of the nicest facilities and stuff. So like some of that was great. Some of them were a bit more challenging, where maybe it wasn't the nicest hotels or the nicest facilities. So there's definitely pros and cons, but definitely more pros to it. The traveling was something that you just kind of just adjusted to. There's a lot of traveling. Tournaments tend to be kind of a week long. So if you did go away for maybe 3 weeks or something, it would be very much getting there maybe Sunday, playing until whenever you either won the tournament or got knocked out. So maybe till Saturday, and then traveling again on Saturday to get to the next place on Sunday. So there's definitely, it was a lot of traveling, which was difficult, but it was amazing experiences that like I could never get in any other aspect of life. And doing it at such a young age, really, I personally feel like it definitely molded me and opened my eyes to a lot of things and made me mature at quite a young age. Obviously traveling and doing all that, even though sometimes you may be with a team, there's certain aspects of by yourself. Tennis is obviously an individual sport, so there's always that kind of individual aspect to it, and that definitely made me mature on the court and off the court as well quite early.
And so you grew up, you matured, as you said. I believe you played at the Wimbledon's men's tournament. Is that correct?
Yeah, you qualified there.
Yeah. And so you played there. But at the age of 22, you decided that after seemingly putting tennis at the forefront of your priorities, you decided to swap it over to basketball. Why did you come to that decision? And equally, for someone who was pretty successful, how's that decision received as well?
Yeah, I think it was a difficult decision that I made at the time. It was kind of there were so many layers into that decision. It wasn't kind of the tennis and then the flip to kind of basketball. There was a lot of layers in it. I struggled during tennis with some injuries, and with that a lot of things that came with it. And tennis is a very difficult sport. You have to deal with so many things off the court that also affect how things go on the court. So dealing with that kind of thing, made me decide that I wanted to further my education. And with that, I started at Loughborough University. Maybe a bit of a rival for UEL, but yeah, I started at Loughborough University, and one of my close friends, Rima Lascelles, came back from America, and we both decided that from me not playing for so long and not being at home with tennis for a long period of time, so not even being able to play if I wanted to, and that we were going to play for Derby, Trailblazers, and yeah, so I started back there in the Division 1 and for probably 3 months, probably started season leading up to about Christmas time, and I was playing good, having good results with the team and good results stats wise individually, and with that, the Loughborough University Leicester Riders connection kind of just came into play. And prior to that, I was playing at Derby basketball, but I was also playing for the tennis team in Bucks at Loughborough, and conversations we just had with myself, Loughborough and Leicester, and there was just an opportunity to move from that tennis side and study to the basketball side and study, and also play with the Leicester Riders. And yeah, it was a difficult decision, and it wasn't anything that was planned. It kind of, I never before them discussion ever expected really to go this way, but it was something that kind of just really just came up in the air, and sometimes I felt like it was just the right decision for myself at the time, and yeah, I just kind of picked the ball up and just ran with it. And kind of where I am now, it's just, I guess, like a snowball effect, and there's been obviously a lot of hard work been put in since that time, and I think a lot of the things that's happened that wasn't necessarily a plan for. There wasn't necessarily a plan for the basketball. It was more when that change kind of happened, it was understanding just kind of where I am and just trying to put in the hard work and take every day, every game, every stretch of games, every season as they come, and just make at each given time, just make the best choices and make the best out of every situation I could, and just kind of, it's led me here.
And so obviously we're kind of at that point where the basketball takes priority over the tennis racket. You mentioned you still played tennis at Bucks when you were studying at Loughborough, but in terms of professional or / league sports, basketball was the priority. At that point, obviously, you take a bit of time to adjust. Is there anything that you kind of missed about the tennis side of things compared to basketball? Was there at any point a decision where you thought, have I made the right decision? Or was it, as plain sailing as it would be, in this dream of rising up as a basketball player?
Yeah, I think, no, definitely. I mean, it's such a massive decision, and there's definitely times where I sat back and I had to think like I'm making the right decision. And probably, before I guess I made the official decision, and I was but I kind of, had in my mind, I'm like, this is the decision I'm gonna make. Those times like all nights and day, I was thinking like, am I doing this? Is this really the right thing to do? And I don't take many decisions too lightly. I think all decisions you make, it's hard to see the future. So I've tried to live life by just making the best choices you can at the time with all the information you can. And once you've understood any decision you make, then just live and die by the consequences. So those times where I wasn't sure if I was making the right decision, but at the time, and still to this day, I think I made the right decision, and I'm happy with the decision I made, and whatever comes from it or doesn't come from it, I'll live by.
It's a good attitude to have, to be fair. And part of me, isn't surprised really, because I feel like a lot of professional sports, men and women, you need that kind of elite mentality, that kind of drive to keep going. But interestingly, I guess one thing that you have which perhaps maybe many other athletes don't, is certainly you mentioned Loughborough, but certainly when you signed for the London Lions, you were obviously studying at UEL, which is quite like a dual career focused university of balancing the sport and the studies. What made you decide that, despite doing well in tennis, despite moving on well in that snowball effect, as you mentioned in basketball, what made you decide that actually you still wanted the studies on the side in your career?
Yeah, I think to be honest, to me that was a very easy, very easy option or question in my mind. I think obviously moving in basketball and seeing how how kind of tennis took me in the path I was going down with tennis. Obviously it was extremely focused, and there was so much put into it. And there was a lot of traveling, which made it extremely difficult to do many other things, even if I wanted to. But obviously it didn't necessarily take me to the place that I thought it would take me, or that I may have wanted it to take me. And with that, obviously, then going into the basketball realm and having just the option to further my education, which I believe is something that one's good for me just to keep pushing. I just think it's something that's it's got to be good for me at some stage in my life, and it's going to open some doors or do something good. Having a degree and a master's. So I guess one, having the ability to even be able to do that, with the option and support to be able to make sure I can do it, and also not just do it but do it well and get to the end of it. And then the idea in my mind, if there's something that's possibly gonna benefit me in future and I'm able to do it, there's no reason why I shouldn't do it. So yeah, with them two things, I think it was, for me anyway, it was a very, very easy decision, an easy choice. It was just about finding the right place. Whereas, like I said, I'm not only just going to be able to do it or start doing it, but I'm able to get into it, have the support, and get out the other side of it in the best place.
And so do you think, so you kind of mentioned that drive of like having the academics alongside your sport. It's it's a drive that not everyone has. Do you think that this kind of forecast that you have your sporting career, but you've gone on through that and still felt that it's important to have the studies on the side? Do you think that has benefited you when you're playing basketball, like kind of having that drive to do well off the court and like do well to further your career in I guess in a different sector? Do you think that's helped you in the game? Is there anything you picked up kind of in this dual career which you feel has helped you?
I wouldn't say necessarily it's helped me in specifically on the court within basketball, but it's definitely helped me in myself, like confidence in myself and mobility. I wouldn't say I was naturally quite academic, but being able to do balance the basketball and the academics has given me confidence, firstly in just myself being able to get that kind of stuff done, but also confidence in my ability in life after sports. I think for a lot of sports people and athletes, like it is when you're in, well, regardless of what sport you're in, when you're in it, it's such a narrow vision, and there's a goal which is in place, whether it's I don't know, like Olympics or like football, playing for a team, whatever it is. There's such a focus on that trophy, that end goal, and sometimes you get lost in that, and you don't think about maybe always the life after. And I think this has given me such a confidence boost and belief in myself of being able to pursue things outside of sports, and knowing that there's avenues I'm able to go down is also quite comforting as well. Knowing that I've got hopefully we'll get something that I'm able to fall back on and use after basketball and push myself outside the sports the same way I push myself on the court. I think athletes have got so many transferable skills that make themselves great for the work environment for many different businesses and different sectors. And I think just having this kind of bridges the gap from the transferable skills on the court and in sports to the actual workplace themselves. And this is a perfect tool which I'm able to use to bridge that gap to move me quicker and more swiftly into the workplace.
And so just quickly taking a step kind of away from your professional career, both in terms of sport and academics, what does a day or a week in the life of Josh Ward-Hibbert look like? Because I feel there is, watching you on TV, people can have an idea of what you do on the court, what all kind of athletes do when you've got the cameras in front of you. But like, how do you relax? Like, do you have to follow a strict diet? Do you what's going on in the background?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot going on now. It's a little bit more relaxed as things are starting up again, but especially when classes and lectures are on, it's extreme time management. It's getting my timetable through from lectures and that kind of side of things, and mirroring them up to the basketball side, and trying to see where I'm able to, the lectures I'm able to make, not able to make, talking to, the lecturers and module leaders, seeing if there's any one side to move around or if I'm just going to have to catch up. So, some days kind of look like, waking up, getting to training, hitting the weights room and doing what I need to do there, to then, go on to court and do the team practice, and then sometimes rushing back to, like last year, a lot of the stuff was on Microsoft meetings and stuff like that. So, rushing back to then catching a lecture, which might be, 4 to 6 or whatever, and then doing that. And then if it's maybe leading up to, we've already got the assignments in, maybe doing a little 4 to 6, and maybe taking a little minute, getting some food, and then taking a couple hours in the evening, trying to get maybe a few words down, and then pretty much similar again the next day. The lectures might be at a different time, or I might not be able to make the lecture, so it might be trying to just catch up on when the lectures are recorded. But yeah, it was biggest thing was just time management, just making sure the day before, the week before, I knew exactly what was happening, what times were happening, just to make sure I was aware that where I needed to be, and if I was going to miss something, how I was going to be able to catch up, and just setting the right amount of time aside to actually do the work that's needed on top of obviously going to the lecture and stuff. And then outside that, it was really just whatever's happening. I'm pretty chill guy, so I like my TV, like my movies, like my series and stuff. So whenever there was a little bit of free time, I'll just kick back, normally just crack on a series or crack on a couple movies. I go out for a bit of food. And my diet's, it's fairly strict. It's nothing too crazy though. It's just try to eat some of the better foods rather than some of the worst food. But I'm definitely a foodie. I like food that's going to taste good and it's not too bland. So I try to sacrifice as little as I can with taste to on health.
So you mentioned film and TV series. When you're looking to relax, if there's anyone here that wants to emulate their idol, Josh Ward-Hibbert, what TV series or movie are you suggesting?
That is a great. Well, one of my favorite films is either Coach Carter, Remember the Titans. I've done to Coach Carter. I've seen crazy amount of time. Like I'm recite that line for line, but yeah, that's one of them films I'll just be watching whenever I put it on, and by the end of it, I'm just thinking should I go on a run right now? It just gets you kind of motivated. But no, I do like them films. Series wise, I really be watching a lot. Like if anyone kind of says there's a good kind of good show to watch or something, I'll really, I'll really crack on. Like, trying to get through a Money Heist right now. I'm not really liking that. Yeah, I'm not really liking the whole subtitles thing. I've never liked it because I always felt like, especially when I finish like this day of like encore, then I'll be in lectures, and I might do like some words, and I was like, the last thing I want to do is sit down for an hour and have to read more subtitles. So like I've been putting it off for a while, but I've had a lot of people been telling me it's good, so I'm just trying to get through Money Heist right now. But there's a few I think like I do like. I like good shows. I'll probably say like the ones that aren't PG, the ones that are probably like 50, a little bit of violence, a little bit of action. So I like Power. I was into Power a lot. Like Ozarks, thought that was really good. People are gonna hate me for this. Game of Thrones, I thought was a little bit overrated.
No, I'd agree. I mean, would you say that just because of the ending, or are you saying the whole thing?
You know what? I watched that. So like, my brother's like one of the biggest Game of Thrones fans. Like, he is about it any time of day, whatever day he'll watch a couple episodes. But so he's been on that for like a long time now. I've been telling me to watch it and watch it. Watch the first episode like 3 different occasions, and I was just like, I'm not getting into it. And then it was last year. I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna crack it out. So I started watching them, and I cracked it off pretty quickly. But I thought the ending was pretty like decent in a sense. Like, it made sense to me. I thought like I don't want to give too much away if anyone's like listening and haven't watched it, but the stuff that happened for me, and I just thought like it makes sense. Like,
okay,
it kind of does make sense. But if it didn't have that hype, and it didn't have probably like 45 people that were always telling me like, well, finish it, it'll get better, I probably would have stopped after a couple of seasons, to be honest. So I wasn't that sold.
Wasn't that sold? One thing I do want to ask you, if you were sold on, simply because you are a professional basketball player, The Last Dance, you must have watched it.
That was lockdown number 1. That was I love that.
I was going to say, like, what was that like for you? Simply because obviously you're not quite following Michael Jordan's career, but you are, you are following that career on like a different level. Like, did you find that interesting? Like, whether that was parallels of his story, or do you find yourself picking up different things? What was that like?
Yeah, I think it was like, firstly, like the stories, like just sitting down, and obviously you hear somebody, you hear these guys who obviously watched games of Jordan, but I'd never watched, games or series like I've, watched on like Kobe or anything like that. So, just hit the names you hear, and like you've heard all of these names and all these debates and stuff, but just hearing like the names and then like hearing the stories behind them and stuff was firstly just like, it was nuts and incredible. Like, you're just hearing it thinking like, oh, these guys are really living. But aside from that, like just hearing Jordan, it was very much the same again to Kobe. Like, just hearing like the work ethic and kind of like the different mindset needed to be a Michael Jordan, of his peers, compared to maybe the other people he was playing with that maybe didn't quite reach the accolades of one of the greatest ever that he did. That was probably one of the big things I took from it, and one of the things that you kind of watch anything like, if I've got to do this, I've got to do it to my best ability, and they're the type of things that you got to do, you got to sacrifice whatever to try and be the best you can be. I mean, it's probably a little bit unlikely I'm going to follow the footsteps of Michael Jordan, but you can always emulate and just try and be the best that you can be. And I think doing some of the things that Jordan can, the likes of him did, and the sacrifices like the likes of the people like that made, I think is gonna probably put me in good stead to be the best that I can be.
Definitely. And I mean, you mentioned emulating Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan had a few setbacks in his career, in his life. He bounced back. You mentioned the odd injury when you were playing tennis. Have you had any setbacks to get where you are now? And more importantly, how did you bounce back after them? How did you jump over that hurdle?
Yeah, I have a few setbacks. Few setbacks have been quite difficult, both physically and mentally. And it's really not easy, it's very much, personal, and everyone that goes through setbacks are going to, deal with it in a way which is best for them, but might be very different to someone else. But for me, it was just I had a great I've got a great support team, around me, with which is like my family and my friends, and especially in my tennis days, I had an incredible tennis coach and mentor coming out of Started Tennis Academy called Daniel Kiernan. With that, it just put me in the best. They put me in the best place possible to, firstly help, or want to understand some of the things I was dealing with and going through, and then do what they can to help, and just be there and offer whatever it may need, just to help me get through it, or get past it, or whatever it might be. Some of them were bigger than others, and some of them were extremely difficult. But I think the biggest thing was just the people around me. I'll take no credit for them. I went through a few difficult times, and if it wasn't for some of them people around me, it'd be definitely very difficult to say I'll be in the same position I am now.
And so, kind of linking on from that, if there were any younger athletes, maybe sports scholars, that are looking to push themselves in whatever sport they're doing, wherever they, whatever their dream is, what advice would you give them to make sure they can perform to the best of their ability, or get as close to their goal as possible?
I would say it's extremely difficult, but at the same time, the only thing I'd say is have that goal, whether that goal is more of a short-term goal, whether it's making a sports team, or getting into a tournament, or whatever it is, or if it's a bigger goal, and that goal is playing for Man United, or playing on the NBA, or whatever that is. Have that goal, and just make sure everything you do, check that up. Is doing this, is this on track to help me reach that final goal? And if it is, that's something you should do. And if it isn't, then question yourself if that's something that you want to do and need to do. But at the same time, enjoy the journey. It's the world's crazy. It's it's a crazy times. With everything that be going on. Obviously, we've just come out of a COVID situation, and we're still in it. So I'd say obviously, as I said, make sure everything's on track, and is it balancing up to your final goals? But enjoy the journey. You're going to go through it once, and especially if you enjoy that journey, it's going to make it easier. It's going to make that process easier, and it's going to make it more rewarding and more fulfilling.
And so we're probably going to look to wrap this up in a few minutes, but less now about how people, what advice people can take from you. You yourself, obviously, recently, we've kind of gone through that sporting career, but even more recently, you've been lucky. Well, I wouldn't say lucky enough. You've got there for a reason. But you played in the Great Britain 3-on-3s, which was, for those who don't know, the 3-on-3s is a new kind of element in basketball, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, was brought in the Olympics, or is going to be brought in the Olympics. Yeah. And so there's, kind of different sides to that game. So that is your latest achievement. If you're now looking a year's time, 2 years' time, what are you looking to achieve? What heights are you aiming to hit now that you are, you've done your tennis, you started off in that transition to basketball, you're now rising up, playing with London Lions, now representing GB. What's next?
Definitely. Firstly, more trophies. I've done all right so far. I've picked up a couple trophies on my basketball journey, and it'll definitely be obviously season's been started. It'll be winning, hopefully to put ourselves in a position to win more trophies this year, and for my future years to continue to put myself and the team in positions where they're able to contend for trophies and the cups and the playoffs. And then also be a massive thing for me would be the international tournaments. Playing for Great Britain and representing the country in more facets. So the 3-on-3s and the 5-on-5s. The Great British team, and hopefully future Olympics and Commonwealths and Europe tournaments, all of them. It would be definitely a massive achievement to me personally, and I'd be definitely honoured to have the opportunity to fight to play with the GB squad and go to battle with them guys. I think that would definitely be something I'd want to do and something I'd be pushing to do. It's all them things are definitely in my eyesight. I believe I'm getting close to get there, and my abilities getting very close to get there. So I'm going to be still putting in the work every day, doing the right things, and putting in the right steps to hopefully put myself in the opportunity to do that, to get the opportunity, and in the 3-on-3 to continue to build on that, and play more of them, and also become more successful in them. We didn't quite get the result we wanted when we went out in the summer, but for all of us, that was our first experience of playing 3-on-3. A lot of the other countries we played, some of these guys were playing as a team professionally for multiple years now. So yeah, definitely we're definitely looking next time we get out there to get more good results. We had more wins and losses, but still, obviously, next time we go, we're trying to definitely come back undefeated. Which at the end of it, when we had our little summary, that we all definitely believe that we could have done, but the experience was so valuable to each of us individually and as a team. I think the next time that we're going to be in that situation, I think it's only going to be a positive for each of us and the team together.
No, that I feel like if there's one thing I can pick up on, if there's one thing I can take from this in terms of what you're telling us, you're putting a big emphasis on that, like you said, the experience, the journey, crucially enjoying it. So if there's one thing I'd like to finish on, is you mentioned playing for your country. That is a feeling not everyone can have. There's one takeaway we're going to have at the end is, how does it feel to represent your nation?
It's amazing, to be honest. It's you're always playing for yourself. I think there's always pride and respect for yourself in anything you do. So you're always got that. If looking enough like to play team sport, you've always got that playing for the other people in the locker room and in the changing rooms, and then always got that kind of the club feel. You might have the local the fans that are they're there regularly, and you're always playing for them. But play for your country is like the same thing, just for me anyway, just feels larger. Whenever you're out there, it's no matter who you play for. I mean, obviously speaking in this team sports, I was getting good luck and all that kind of thing from various people that you play against and clubs you play against and all that kind of thing. And that's like you're playing for so much more than yourself and the people that are maybe there in the locker room. You're also playing for everyone back home watching, and everyone in the country, and you're representing that country, and that's something that's I think is just it's an amazing feeling. And to not only do that, to have success and bring success back to that country is something that I'm greatly passionate about, and is something that I will do before I finish this game.
Okay, no, well, I hope so, and I hope any of the listeners you just said you hope to bring back some achievements, some trophies. So who knows? We're looking back on this in a year's time. Let's hope that's been fulfilled. But that'll be that for this episode. Thank you very much, Josh, for coming on. It was great talking about your story, some of the advice provided as well. And I guess for the other listeners, I hope you're looking forward to the next episode. Thank you very much.